Today I'm going to show you guys 6 different plugins that you can use on your drum bus to help control your drums just a little bit more.
True Sound Studios is in your ears.
Hey guys, what is up? I'm Weezna, and as always we are here at my studio, True Sound Studios, and today I got a really great video for you guys. So it always seems like trying to control the drums is pretty much one of the things I spend the most amount of time on. You know, whether it's controlling the amount of low end in the kick drum, or how wide or narrow the snare drum is, and how loud both those elements should be, you know, balancing the amount of attack and release and punch, you know, can get really overcomplicating it. And honestly, you can just spend too much time trying to balance out all these different elements of a drum. So I'm assuming like you guys, you go ahead and process your kick drum and your snare drum, you know, separately and do whatever you need to get the sound that you want. But then I always take it a step further and take that kick and snare and I always bus it to a drum bus. So in the drum bus, that is where I do like the final little tweaking of the drums, add some sort of bus compression on the drums. So whether it be a standard compressor, a bus compressor, or some sort of tape machine, I always do the final drum processing in the drum bus. So over the years, I've found that some compressors work better than others and some tape machines work better than others. So in this video, I'm gonna show you guys my 6 favorite compressors and tape machines to use on my drum bus. Okay guys, so here we go. Let's get into this video. Okay, so first let's just go ahead and listen to the entire track. Now this is the hook of the song. Now this is a beat that I personally produced and recorded right here at True Sound. Okay, so you get it. It's you know, a hip hop track. So now let's go ahead and solo these drums, and I'm just gonna let you listen to the drums by themselves, same spot. And this once again this is no plugins on it. I haven't done anything yet to these drums besides the processing that went on with the individual kick and snare channel. Okay, so, you know, nothing too crazy special. Just got a kick and a snare in there, and that's really all I like to do this bus processing on for drums. I really just like to focus on the kick and snare, you know, hi-hats and toms and little extra things. You know, it's not really the core of the track for me, so it doesn't necessarily really matter too much, some of those other elements. I just like to focus on the core. These are things that I really think are really important to properly treat. Okay, so first let's go ahead and add some of the things that are included in Cakewalk Sonar. We have the tape emulator, the CA-2A compressor, and this is the S-type bus compressor. So let's start with the tape emulator. Now that I have that engaged, let's just go ahead. I'll reset this as pretty much the default setting and go ahead and start play these drums soloed, and you guys will hear what this is going to do. Okay, so you can tell, you know, the tape machines, the tape emulators, whatever you want to call them, are really good at getting rid of some of those initial really fast transients that happen on drums. So these super fast attacks on the kick or the snare drum. A tape machine, because they're a little slower, tend to cut off some of those things. So just getting rid of some of that initial digital attack that generally isn't, you know, needed or wanted on the drums. So let me go ahead and I will bypass and unbypass this. So you can really hear it's taking a little bit of the low end away, some of those really low lows, controlling that a little bit. But what I'm hearing that it's doing more of is really that clap snare thing. It's really compressing that. And if that's the sound that you like and you're going for it, this might be a great plugin for that. So now let's just go ahead and change essentially the speed of the tape machine, and you'll kind of hear what this is going to do to the drums. So you can see when I change the IPS, the inches per second, is essentially how fast the tape machine is moving. You can hear how much darker it gets, and you lose essentially some of that, I guess, clarity you would call it, in those claps and snares. So that is a great thing to put on drums. I often use this tape machine on the drums to kind of help control it. It obviously depends on the style of music and what kind of drum samples you got going on. So now let's go ahead and use another plugin that I recently started using on drums, is the CA-2A. So this is the T-type compressor. It is like the LA-2A clone made by Cakewalk. So let me go ahead and engage this, and let's go ahead and listen to what this sounds like on our kick and snare. So as you can hear, it is in the limit mode right now, so it is more compression going on, but you can hear like what it's doing to that track. Talk about tightening up the low end, adding that really processed drum sound. So now I know typically this is used on vocals. It's kind of classically known for vocals, but because it has a slower attack, it lets those initial transients through and really helps squash, the tail end of those drums. So as you can hear, it adds that like semi-aggressive compression sound onto those drums. So now let's go back to the compressor mode. So this is a little bit more typically what you'd use for vocals. So this is not going to be as aggressive as a ratio, but let's listen to what this sounds like. So, I think that sounds really good. For this track, so far, that is definitely my favorite. I think that just really pulls those drums together really well. Now, another thing I do have to mention that I actually didn't even know about, and I actually learned from a fellow YouTuber, is that if you click this little arrow right here, it actually brings up this photocell memory, so you can keep it on. Right now I have it on the classic sound of this, but you can also have it on this fast reset. Now, I don't think it sounds, necessarily in my taste as good as the classic sound, but let's just go ahead and play with this real quick. So it's good, it's definitely doing something to those drums. So obviously those compressor settings are a little bit aggressive, a little too aggressive, but you can use some of those really aggressive settings and use that as a parallel compression drum channel and add that like mildly compression sound and that super over compressed sound and blend those two together. But so far that CA-2A sounds great to me. I think I still like that classic sound maybe just a little bit better. Maybe keep it on the compressed setting, and maybe unless you really like that little bit more aggressive sound, keep it on the limit setting. But so far, this is my favorite. So now let's get down to the S-type bus compressor. Now, not only will I use this bus compressor on just the drums, I will also use it for like guitar. I've even been putting it on the master bus as like my SSL bus compressor. And if you set it up kind of like the SSL, it does kind of resemble it. I found that this bus compressor is the closest thing I can get to that SSL sound. So I'm going to set it up like the SSL. I just kind of like it like that. So obviously you can change the settings, but what you can do, threshold, we'll have to play around with that. For the attack settings, I like to keep it somewhere around 10 milliseconds. For the release, put it all the way down to auto. And the ratio I always bring to 4:1. There we go. And the sidechain is something you can play around with. I'm just going to leave it alone just like it was. And yeah, so let's go ahead and listen to this and what this sounds like. Once again, I mean, that is really kind of an impressive plugin sound for a bus compressor. I mean, especially since, you know, it's included with Cakewalk Sonar Platinum. I really like that. I think it works so well on so many things. I mean, you could use this compressor for, you know, any of your bus groups. I think this thing is just really versatile. Having it set up like this, kind of like SSL bus sound, I really particularly like it. As you can hear, when I bypassed it, it was really doing a lot to those drums. Once again, controlling that low end, you can really hear what it's doing to those claps. So, you know, between the CA-2A and that bus compressor, I mean, I think those are both really, really good choices, and it's a Cakewalk product. So now let's go ahead and move into some of the other things. So we're going to pull up some of these Wave plugins now. First thing I'm going to use is the Waves Puigchild. I really, really like this plugin. It's not as aggressive sounding. If you're really looking for a processed drum kick and snare sound, I wouldn't say that this is the best compressor for it. But if you want something that's, you know, kind of transparent and it's still going to do a little bit for you just to control, not only will I put it on drums to control things, but it's also great on a vocal bus. So let's go ahead and listen to this. Now, I've already played around with these settings a little bit. Down here, if you have it down to this 1, it's a fast attack, fast release type thing. Now I know there's obviously no settings on here, but if you just play around it, it seems like these are a little bit of the faster settings and they kind of get a little slower as you go down. I know that's not technical, but you know, I guess it doesn't really matter because it's what is going to sound good, right? I mean, that's the whole goal. Let's go ahead and listen to what this sounds like. So I know if you guys have watched any of my other videos, I use this on the vocal bus, like I was saying. In that 2 setting, I don't know why, that just, to me, it just sounds good. You know, maybe that's just what sounds good to my ears, but I think this somewhere right around here sounds pretty good. So let me go ahead and pull this in and out of our drum bus, and you can hear what it's doing. So as you can hear, you know, it's still changing the sound of those drums. I mean, once again, like I said, it's a great, you know, fairly transparent compressor, but it does add just that little bit more of control that maybe you're looking for, especially if you want to use this on live drums. And now let's go ahead and use the Kramer master tape. So this plugin is very different from the Cakewalk tape emulator. This has its own sound to it. I mean, on kick drum, I love this thing. I mean, it changes the entire sound of the drum. So if you had this on a kick drum track and then you take it off, it really changes things. So if you're looking for like a tone, a sound change, this is really a great plugin for it. So once again, I've already kind of played around with some of these settings a little bit, but let's go ahead and take a listen to what this is doing. If you can tell, like, what it's doing to that kick drum, it does something that kick drum, it's got like its own EQ compressor sound to it. It doesn't work on every track. Sometimes on the hip hop, it adds a little bit, almost too much low end for me. But so it's obviously very different from the Cakewalk tape machine emulator, but I think it's a really great plugin to have. And as you can hear, what it's doing to those drums is pretty drastic. And this is another great plugin that you can also put on just your total master bus. And it'll really, once again, change the sound of your entire track. So once again, let me go ahead and change the speed of this, and we'll add a little distortion, and you just hear what this is going to do, and go ahead and change these drums up even further. So as you can hear, when you add this flux in, it's kind of like, I don't know, I guess you would call it somewhat sort of a tube drive type thing. And it would be great, especially for some sort of effects drums going on in a verse or something like that. And then once again, with the speed, you can hear when you decrease that speed, you just lose some of the brightness on the, especially on the clap snare thing. Okay, so the final plugin that I probably use the least, but it is really great for parallel compression on drums if you really want to add something really aggressive. And then it also can be really great for trying to get some more attack or decreasing the amount of attack and release on a kick and snare. So this is the CLA-76. This is obviously a Wave product too, and obviously other companies make this too. But let's go ahead and listen to this, and I'll also put it in the all buttons in mode, and you guys will really hear what this thing can do to drums. Yet another great compressor for drums. As you can tell, it's really changing our drum sound. It's really adding that, I hate to use the word professional, but it really just starts to add and make it sound more like a professional sounding recording. So now just let me go ahead and push the all buttons in mode and just hear how super aggressive you can use this, which is really kind of how I use this compressor, is for a parallel compression bus channel. But you can hear how crazy this thing gets. So if you really are looking for that really aggressive parallel compression channel sound, this compressor is definitely going to do it for you. I can't find another compressor that can do what this thing does. But, once again, it's great on kick, it's great on snare, and you can even throw it on your drum bus. I feel like, at least for me, this can get a little too aggressive sounding for me. So between all of these plugins, though, I really think that I probably like the CA-2A the best, and this S-type compressor, the two Cakewalk products, which is, it's kind of crazy that out of all these plugins that I have, that those are two of my favorite, especially when it comes to hip hop drums and then some of the rock stuff that I do. Okay guys, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you can use this information to make your drums sound even better. So thank you for watching this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, click that like button and consider subscribing for more content. So not only do I make YouTube videos, but I also produce tracks and I can mix and master your music. So once again, thank you for watching this video. I'm Weezna and True Sound Studios is in your ears.